Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Misfits Racing League broadcast. It is, of course, the MRL EU division, and joining me as always, Unicorn. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Striff. Excited to be here, ready for another great week of MRL here at Monaco this evening. So it should be an interesting one, that's for sure, in our second round in the division here.
Well, Monaco, they took to Spain last week for their debut as a grid, and well, we had our fair share of moments, but of course, now Monaco, a great test, the very tight circuit, very hard overtaking circuit. Qualifying is going to be crucial. You can see the circuit on screen there. Of course, we'll take a look at the calendar these drivers are going to face this season. You have, of course, Spain last week, Monaco today, and next week we'll be going to Baku. So a very tough 3 races to begin the calendar. And then some may consider Canada a tough race due to the amount of chicanes, but of course that'll be a great one for round 4 with France, and round 5 and Austria for round 6. And then they move into the other leg of their calendar where things really kind of sync up with the rest of the MRL. Of course, round 7 for them is going to be Silverstone, moving through into Hungary, Belgium, Italy, Singapore, Russia, Japan, the US, Mexico, Brazil, and for round 17 in December, Abu Dhabi. So a great calendar ahead and a great bunch of racers to take to the streets of Monaco today. We'll take a look at the standings, of course. Nikolaitis currently in the lead of things in first position there, 25 points for Mercedes. Kana in second with Tim there rounding off the top 3, and it is a McLaren-led championship at the moment. So very nice to see. Of course, we'll look at the teams that are going to be taken to the grid. A couple of new drivers to the grid in full-time positions. Jamie over at Alfa Romeo is going to be filling in for Extreme. Extreme has been transferred to Tier 2, and he'll be filling in for Cjoss, as Cjoss has to step down due to some other commitments. Of course, Beavis X is going to be replacing Moen over at Renault for the remainder of the season as well. So a couple of driver changes, but nothing too major, as we're only 1 round in here so far in this season. We'll just jump back to the standings there. You'll see here the stewarding report restricted Nova to receive a qualifying ban. He has been demoted a place due to some issues the stewards followed up with after last week's race, and Luktra as a result was promoted up to P12, I believe, as a result of that. So with all of that being said and done, I do believe, Unicorn, we are set to go here for this race.
Yeah, I think we are. I think we're trying to get the last driver. I'm not sure whether got one or not, but it looks like we're just about ready. Though we've lost someone. Someone's dropped out, which is curious. Baz has switched to spectator, which is not what we want. Let's make sure he knows that, and there we go. He switched off of it. Excellent stuff.
Near a full grid, I do believe we're just waiting on the possibility of one more driver. Of course, Monaco, a grid that you seldom see close to a full grid in league racing, at least in my experience, Unicorn. I don't know about your end, but it's not for the faint of heart, if you will.
Yeah, it's a tough sell to get people in here, and like you said, it's qualifying is going to be the crucial moment here as we get underway.
Of course, 18-minute qualifying session. It's going to be a 50% distance endeavor for these racers, and they have a roll of the dice on the weather. And what's it going to be is the big question. Looks like clear skies so far here, at the very least in qualifying. We'll have to see if they get any rain for the race. And I do believe that is Jamie jumping into this qualifying session. He may, as a result, I do know there is a bug ongoing in the game right now, and get set to the rear of the grid for qualifying, mid-qualifying session. I'm not entirely sure if that's been rectified, but of course we'll see how things go. On the grid today, we have Vettel, Baza, Adam, Hello Khan, Beavis, Safzo, Jake, Ruben, Steph, Tim, Domi, Yukio, Alexander, Cotters, Dirk Chocolate, with Cotters there in the Red Bulls, and you have Hurricane there in the Ferrari, with Kana in the other McLaren, Crampy in the Haas today, and Luchtra there as well, and we'll see Jamie take over what I believe is the other Alfa Romeo as well. And one thing to note here is last week in Spain, we saw Vettel and Hurricane fighting quite hard at the front of this grid. They were then, unfortunately, caught up in a collision with the Haas of Restricted Nova and taken out of that race. So we'll have to see how they go here in round 2.
Yeah, and this qualifying session is absolutely critical because, like you said, this track is very notorious for being exceptionally difficult to overtake on. So there's 2 moments over this race weekend or evening, whichever you'd like to call it. You've got qualifying here, and then we've got the pit window as well, where positions are won or lost. But everyone flooding out for their first attempt. And it's the Williams of Atom, who's flying out the pits far quicker than anyone else.
Yeah, the timings here in qualifying are going to be crucial. A lot of drivers wanting to get as many laps in as they can here. And Monaco is a very tight circuit. Not a lot of overtaking can be done here, and that's why it's so crucial in these qualifying sessions for these drivers to get as far up this grid as they can. Of course, safety cars are definitely in play around the Principality here because, well, where can the cars go if they happen to get into any kind of incident? It's so narrow, it's almost a definite safety car deployment so that the marshals can get that debris off circuit.
Yeah, and there's a couple other things. You've got, obviously, those tight walls. So not only is raw pace important this weekend, but if you don't want to be suffering too much damage. Obviously, everyone talks about the major crashes, but if you have too many smaller incidents at the wall and, you know, cause damage to your front wing once or twice during this event, that's going to cost you a lot of time if you need to go into the pits for wing repairs. And that's not what you want to be seeing. And there was another thing I was going to say, but it's completely slipped my mind. Hopefully it comes back to me over the coming times as we see Atom coming up through that famous turn 6, that long or tight left-hander, not really that long, and he's invalidated his lap, coming out of turn 7, I believe. So track limits.
I think it's Tim, maybe the next driver that we can follow along with on a flyer here in the AlphaTauri.
These track limits, if people are getting penalties left, right, and centre, again, without the ability to overtake, they could stack up if people are close behind one another. But with the walls, I can't imagine there's too many places to pick up a track limits extension because there are no track limits to extend unless you wish to lose a front wing.
Well, first time set here by Tim, a 110.4 in the AlphaTauri. We'll see who's next across. I believe it's going to be the Ferrari of... Oh, it was the Ferrari beginning a lap, excuse me, as Steph actually sets another time behind his teammate. A 110.6. Safso, a 111.1 in the Renault. Safso has shown great speed here, and now Dirk Chocolate into 5th as he sets a 112.2. He was 4th there for a brief moment, but Hello Khan in the Haas comes across a 109.5 for his first run, and Jake jumps into the front row, a 110.3. So things are heating up at the front. You can see Beavis X now joins his teammate in the 3rd row. A 111 flat from him, just edging ahead of Safzo. So all the times now starting to come across.
Cotter's in the Red Bull. He's about to set a 112.4. So Red Bull not having a good evening so far, with both Dirk and Cotter setting the slowest lap times as of right now. Got Ruben in the Ferrari.
He's just had an issue there, Ruben, in that Ferrari. He has kind of got loose and did a bit of a ping pong slap into the wall, and so he's come in now. He's gonna not finish out that lap, and it looks like Crampy's on an invalidated time as well, so he's gonna come into the box. So looking for drivers flying right now. I believe most of this grid currently on in laps, as we had a massive chunk of times getting set. We have 12 minutes remaining here in qualifying.
Yeah, and it just goes to show how important qualifying is here around Monaco, because at this stage of qualifying, we wouldn't have nearly as many laps completed as we do right now, because you've got to factor in all the invalidated laps as well that are in here. So everyone really just vying for those front positions.
Yeah, Monaco, a battle of patience when it comes to the race. A lot of these racers going to have to be very careful, and it's the driver ahead of them they need to focus on, because if everyone just keeps their eyes ahead, keeps their distance, things will be okay, especially in the opening phase of this race. A lot of tight turns.
Big issue for Kana in the McLaren on an outlap. He's lost both his end plates after ricocheting off one wall and then hitting another. He's also got a little bit of front wing damage on the left-hand side. So he's not going to be setting a time anytime soon.
Looks like Jamie in the Alfa Romeo may have invalidated at the start of the lap here. Lutra as well in the Mercedes. He's coming through Sector 2. He is invalidated. The McLaren, however, Alexander coming through Sector 2. Through Sector 3 as well now in the... And he's invalidated as well. So not a lot of drivers getting through some clean laps here. And this is going to affect a good chunk of them. And Alexander struggling to get into the pit lane there. Now another driver who we talked about at the beginning of the qualifying was Vettel from last week, and he's had a big shake coming down the hill here. Oh dear, so he's not going to be able to set a serious time with that kind of damage on the front left at all, and his teammate right now behind him, Jake, is on an outlap.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of drivers struggle here, it would seem, either with the damage on these cars or, like you were saying, the invalidation. And invalidation will, in the race, lead to penalties being picked up and warnings. So all these drivers got to be careful. As Jamie in the Alfa Romeo, he's dealing with a laggy Renault, and that's caused him to go into the wall, setting a fastest Sector 1, so he's not going to be happy about that.
Now I believe it might be Ruben in the Ferrari on a flyer right now. And he has the Renault of Safso, and he has Jamie ahead. Safso pulls off. He knows that that Ferrari's flipping through this tunnel now. We'll see if that Alpha picks up on it. It's going to be tight here. Yeah, he does. Very good from him. So clean lap so far for Ruben coming through now. We'll see what he's able to put up on the board. He hasn't had a time yet.
Very nicely done through the final sector. DRS enabled, obviously only the one DRS zone on this track. Across the line, it's going to be second, a 110 flat for him in that Ferrari. But it is Khalil Khan up at the front, half a second faster than anyone else so far in this session.
Yeah, it's a serious time to beat from him. Another driver we can follow along with. It is, of course, Derek Chocolate in the Red Bull. He's coming down out of the tunnel now through the chicane. Very tricky bit of circuit here. He handles it well, and now he's coming through Sector 3. Bit of brush over the wall there. Keeping through here.
Yeah, Domi, he's about to set a lap time as well in the Mercedes.
Derek with a slip up there. He's going to move into the box. Domi, as you said, in that Mercedes. A 110.4 from him.
Yeah, another pretty competitive time. You can see from fourth down, the grid pretty close, but there is some disparity from first to what is currently 15th in terms of the lap times. Just over 3 seconds at the moment, so...
Things going to be very tough if these drivers aren't going to be able to keep it out of the wall. Adam right now in the Williams, I've just jumped on board with him, and he is missing the entirety of that front end wing. So struggling is definitely the word we're going to be using here around qualifying.
And it's interesting that he continued the lap, because I was on board with him a fair while ago and he was missing both end plates, so... Well, I don't think there's been time for him to replace that. Kana, he's invalidated his flying lap in the McLaren. Looks like he might be going around again.
Steph has just come out of the tunnel. And he is currently flying in the AlphaTauri. He's currently down on his time massively, however. It's possible that he may have had an incident. We'll take a look at that front end. It doesn't appear that he's had an incident. Could very well be also an in-lap. He's currently 8th with a 110.6.
Yeah, Vettel as well in the Racing Point. He's already had a little incident. We saw him wobble at a casino. Now through the tunnel as well. In the Racing Point down towards the chicane. Kept it valid through there, which is what a lot of these drivers can hope for at the moment. It would appear that validations coming out left, right and centre, but through the third and final sector for Racing Point round Raskas into the last couple of corners. DRS enabled. And it looks like it's going to be a pretty solid time for Vettel here. A 19.7. That puts him second fastest so far this evening.
Very nicely done from him. Breathing down Hillel Khan's neck in that Haas now. And we'll see, I imagine, a variety of improvements as a couple of drivers have begun laps. We saw a few moments ago. I'm trying to find out where he went. Luktra decided... I was on board with Luktra as he began a lap, and he's now come into the pit lane. I'm not too sure what happened with him.
The two McLarens, they've just improved. Connor jumped up to 5th, but he's now in 6th after his teammate Alexander. He's done a 109.8, so we are seeing a few drivers now creep under that 110 gap. As Jamie, he's coming around the final corner. Is he going to follow suit? And he is going to set a 109.7. He goes second in that Alfa Romeo. So now, towards the tail end of this qualifying session, we're seeing drivers put in faster and faster laps as we do. And obviously that track is only going to improve for these drivers. Is this a Ferrari?
Yeah, Tim went into P6 there. He didn't quite get into the sub 110 level where the top 4 are right now, but he is quite close. He's a 10th down from there. And he's quite close to, of course, Jake. Jake flying in the Racing Point right now. He's coming up the hill out of turn 1.
There's sector flag, yellow flags up, but I think that is just people letting other drivers by. Baza in the Williams. He's going to set his first lap time of the session. It's a 111.5 from him. That puts him 14th. Yukio in the other Alfa Romeo. He's failed to set a lap time and now invalidates one of his last chances at a flying lap. So he's going to have to think of something before the end of this session.
And Jake definitely down on his time here. It looks like he may have had an issue that has caused him to stop. See, that energy deployment has dropped as well. Very nicely done from Domi. He's moved up into 4th position with a major improvement, 7/10 from him, and he is 200ths off of P3 right now. That's Vettel ahead of him.
Interesting enough, I only just got the notification of Halil's last lap, which is a 109.3. He's already back to the pits, so that must have been quite a while away. Baza, he pulls into the pits. He's not going to complete that lap. Steph is on a flyer in the AlphaTauri, currently sitting in 13th place. Let's see, after he crosses the line into sector 2, whether he's on for an improvement. It doesn't look like it at the moment. 2 tenths down.
Gonna jump on with the Red Bull of Dirk Chocolate here. He's just begun a flying lap, Unicorn, on the medium compound tires, which is something that none of these racers except Hurricane have done so far. So we'll see what kind of time he's looking to put across this line on the medium compound tires. Could be that he was just going for some practice runs on those softs. Could have a little bit of time in the tank here. We'll have to see how he does coming out of the Sector 2, Sector 3 split. Currently in the tunnel, though, coming down into the chicane. A very, very Big hotspot for invalidation, of course, but he takes it well.
Yeah, and starting on the medium tyres, it could be beneficial for the Brit there in that Red Bull. If there aren't any safety cars, by some miracle, as he looks up a lot on into Raskas, but if there's no safety car, running on an alternate strategy could net him some nice positions, but it's going to be a 1:11.6 for him.
Improves into P16. Of course, he'll have tire option. He could still choose to start on the sauce, but he seems to have been enjoying the mediums quite a large amount here in these past 2 rounds. We saw him set medium time, of course, in Spain, and now we're seeing him do it again here. Strategist, perhaps.
Yeah, 100% strategy. If you're good at that game, it can really net you quite a few positions. We saw it last week where he gained a fair few positions, but obviously Monaco, a very tricky circuit to overtake on. So if he overtakes them in the pit lane, though, in terms of that sort of strategy, it could work out very, very nicely for him here.
A lot of drivers on final runs right now. You can see the clock ticking down there. Of course, there is a little bit of a desync, but currently it's Jamie coming out of the tunnel through the chicane, and he's on the rear of that Red Bull. That's Cotters, who I believe is flying ahead of him. Both looking to improve. Of course, Cotters currently in 19th. Of course, ideally wanting that teammate rivalry to jump ahead. Oh, and now we've got a big issue there. That's Cotters, and he's blocked Jamie here, and it looked as though he was pulling off to the right, and there's been a big issue, and now Jamie's into the wall, and that is extremely unfortunate between these 2 racers. Of course, stewards are going to have a look at that following the race.
They already have. Cotters have picked up a 5-place grid penalty, it would appear, for that collision.
Very important to move out of the way for fast movers. Of course, Jamie there.
Ruben.
And
109.2.
Ruben in the Ferrari. No apologies necessary, Ruben. Pole position, a 109.2 in the Ferrari.
Connor as well. He's up to 3rd with a 109.6. So some very impressive lap times coming out in the last closing moments. Vettel as well. He's currently in 6th. Can he improve in that racing point? He does, and that's pole, a 109.2, half a second knocked off his time. 0.02 of a second ahead of Ruben in that Ferrari.
Very, very nice. It appears that, well, of course, well, that's just a very tight margin here for pole position, that's for sure. Of course, we'll see if anybody can undo that. It doesn't look like Kana is on a lap that will be able to do anything about it. Jake isn't able to do anything. He looks like he's letting Domi by. Domi on an out lap. We'll see if Jake is starting. No, he's going to go into the pit lane. Domi, who's shown very good speed throughout MRL recently. We'll see if he's able to do something about it.
I do believe that the likes of Hurricane and the 2 Renaults there. Oh, the BVix, he's completed his flying lap. He's gone 11th with a 110.2. So a small improvement from him there. Hurricane's up a couple tenths as well, so he could leapfrog. Potentially even into the top 10 if he's faster through Sector 3. Saf, so he knocks his teammate down a position by 0.003 of a second in that Renault.
3
Hurricane crosses the lane. Hurricane, a big improvement, 7/10. He's up to 5th place.
And Domi has invalidated, unfortunately, through that chicane. And Dirk is coming into the pit lane, and with that done, I believe that is going to be your grid. Tim, currently on an in-lap.
Those 2 Renaults. That's an awkward tension to have in your garage. 0.003 of a second, splitting the 2.
Well, a very, very unique qualifying session, of course. Things aren't too bad. Currently less than a second separating drivers all the way from 1st down to 14th position. And then things space themselves out a little bit further down the grid. But of course, that is quite the tight gap, and things are very intense here around the Principality. And I'm looking forward to a cracking race here around the streets of Monte Carlo.
Absolutely. Hopefully everyone's listened to Jeff and we don't see any huge heroics down into Sandoval for the start of this race. Hopefully we get a clean start and everyone... Still a couple cars out on track. Don't know what's going on. They're moving very slowly down the start-finish straight. They're not pulling in. Might be waiting on one of the Renaults.
It looks as though we're just waiting on that qualifying time to properly sync here, and it's something that's been in the game for some time now. Of course, it will just take a moment, and then we'll be into the race. Of course, one thing I did want to mention, we saw Jamie join the session mid-qualifying. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he gets dropped to the rear of the grid as a result. Of course, you'd hate to see it, but it has happened once or twice throughout league racing. Of course, it is going to be Vettel on pole position with Ruben lining up next to him on the front row there in the Ferrari, with Halil Khan rounding off your top three for Haas. Of course, it's Kana in fourth position, Hurricane in fifth, with Jamie in sixth position, with Jake in seventh, Domi in eighth, Alexander in ninth, and Tim rounding off your top 10. Of course, you have Luke there in 11th, Safso, Beavis, Steph Crampy, and we'll move through the rest of this grid on the formation lap here ahead of this race.
It does look like Jamie might have also got a 5-second grid place penalty for that collision with Codders. Codders got one as well, but that end screen there said that he had one as well, so it'll be interesting to see. It does look like he's been... interesting to see whether they both got administered with the 5-race grid penalty. Which would be a little bit confusing, because the incident's either someone's fault or no one's fault.
Could be very interesting to see where they wind up here on this grid. Of course, 20 seconds ticking down now, waiting on these drivers to finalize fuel loads, tire selections. Some minor changes to the things they can. Of course, Parc Ferme is in question here, so the driver's not able to really tweak those setups ahead of the races after qualifying. Very important to get it right the first time here as we get things set for this formation, excuse me. Now, you can look at the grid all the way from first down to ninth, soft compound tires there, all those red tires, and then you have Luke there in 10th position on mediums. Zafso has made the decision to go on soft tires, and Jamie, as anticipated, has in fact been dropped to the rear of this grid due to, I imagine, showing up late and joining mid-qualifying session. You hate to see it, but again, it is a known bug in the game. So, it is, once again, Vettel on pole, Ruben in second, Halil Khan rounding out your top three, with Kana in fourth and Hurricane behind him in fifth. Jake in sixth, Domi in seventh, with Alexander in eighth. Tim in ninth, Luke in 10th, with Safso and Beavis in the two Renaults 11-12. Steph Crampy in 13th and 14th respectively, with the two Williams drivers 15th and 16th. That's Adam and Baza. Dirk Chocolate in 17th here, Yukio in 18th, and Cotters 19th, and Jamie being shot to the rear of this grid after qualifying within the top 10 in qualifying session. Of course, that bug is setting him back there.
Yeah, you gotta hope that there's no, tension between Codders and Jamie. They're both at the back of this grid after that collision in qualifying. Hopefully that they can let bygones be bygones and just get on with their individual races. Got a tight second around Monaco with potentially a lot of anger between the two. If with that collision, hopefully they can keep it clean. But the front drivers are forming up on this grid, but those at the back are still a little behind. So those at the front, their tyres are already going to be starting to cool off, which is not what they want going down into turn one.
Well, for those of you just tuning in, of course, get the popcorn, grab your friends, grab your family, get in here, or shoot that link around, share the stream, because we are about to buckle up for a very unique race here. Unicorn, take us away for Monaco.
We have got L5 red lights lit here, and they're going again. We've seen this bug a couple of times, but the drivers are all revved up, ready to go. And there they go. We are underway here at Monaco. Vettel, he's got a pretty good start, as has the Haas of Halil Khan. He's up one place past Ruben already. Hurricane's up past Kana as well. So now down towards turn 3 for the leaders. They're already spacing themselves out. Further back, though, we've got a bit of side-by-side racing. Jake in the racing point. He's dropped a position, and he's under threat from Alexander down into the right-hander, but he's had a little bit of an issue. He's missing end plates already down into the hairpin. End plates are flying, a huge backlog of cars, and everyone's running into the back, and that is a safety car deployed. And the game seems to have just detected severe collisions, even though everyone appears to be still rolling here. There's a lot of damage on those front wings in the mid pack and the rear pack. A huge pile up of cars down into that Grand Hotel hairpin.
Yeah, very intense race start there. A multitude of position changes. We'll look and take a look. See here. You can see there, Halil Khan has bested Ruben into second position here. Hurricane getting ahead of Kana, and Domi ahead of Jake. So they've all flipped within that top 10. Meanwhile, Alexander and Tim maintaining station here. Safso and Luktra have flipped as well. That's Safso into 10th position. Meanwhile, Beavis, Steph, Crampy, and Adam all holding slots now, and all of that is going to get jumbled up here with the pit stops coming through. Here on the safety car.
Yeah, Yukio, you can just see him flying up through the grid here. No damage as well as Codders. They both just gained 7 places because neither of them sustained damage, despite being at the back of this grid. They've just been able to take advantage, and that's the game you got to play around Monaco. No damage means that you don't have to go into the pit like all of these drivers at the back of this grid now have had to switch out onto new wings, fresh tires.
I have to say, Hurricane getting into 4th position there. Ruben dropping into 3rd. They're running 3rd and 4th right now, but of course the Ferrari fans would love to see these guys do some front of the grid racing, considering how things are going on the real world end of the spectrum.
Yeah, the Monaco Grand Prix not really too intensive on that and on reliant, should we say. A lot of turns, a lot of tight twistiness, so the power deficit not too noticeable, but obviously all the cars here are equal, so Ruben, Hurricane are up there purely based on their driving ability. As we are going for another lap under the safety car here, we've got Bazza. He's appeared to have had an issue somewhere. He must have spent a long time in that pit lane. Did he serve a penalty? Because I do believe Dirk Chocolate was the person. He did receive a penalty. Whether he was able to serve a stop and go. Dirk Chocolate was the last person into that pit lane. You can see him in 19th position, dropping a couple places.
Now, looking at this grid, majority now on the harder compound tire. A good chunk of drivers on those hards. And the, well, you can see there, from 13th down into 20th, everybody pitted. Of course, 12th through into lead of this race, everybody opted to stay out. And those drivers who chose to start these races on the medium are doing well.
Yeah, there's a chunk of 4 of them there. You've got Lucha, Steph, Yukio, and Codders. Yukio and Codders currently changing positions here. Yukio might have had an issue. He has. And again, it's that Grand Hotel hairpin. And Alexander has received a 5-second penalty, as has Beavis. So a little bit confusing as to what happened there. It's under safety car conditions, so you would hope that everyone is taking things careful, but that might delay the safety car coming in for yet another lap here at Monaco. But once racing gets underway again, we're going to have... Oh, it is coming in. So regardless of those stragglers at the back there who haven't quite formed up to the rest of the grid, we are going to be restarting this race here.
Well, it's going to be a very quick restart here because that safety car, of course, set it very late. And you can just see a chain of reactions down this grid. Race control confirming a lot of 5-second penalties for drivers coming into one another due to that late safety car. And now it's green flag racing here. Penalties still being handed down, but of course Vettel still back out in lead of this race. It looks like Domi quite close to the rear of Kana here on the restart, as is Safso on the rear of Tim.
Yeah, and the nature of Monaco, it's spaced this grid out very, very significantly. Domi on the back of Kana. Can he get any moves done out of the tunnel and into the chicane? One of the prime overtaking spots to late break down into turn 10. He's not close enough to make that move.
Not a lot of damage now on the restart that we can see. We'll move further down the grid. Of course, overtaking is of extreme difficulty here around Monaco. We'll look to see who else may have damage. Hurricane's just taken a 3-second time penalty after multiple warnings from race control. It's something you hate to see. Of course, drivers want to do their best not to cut corners. Hello Khan is claiming the fastest lap at the moment, a 112.661, and he's currently within a second of Vettel in a battle for lead of this race, as we'll just ride along with them for a moment, unless of course Steph is within striking distance of Luktra. We'll have to keep an eye on that, as Baza would appear to have come into the pit lane, as has Alexander.
Yeah, there's a very nice little battle forming. 4 cars, Tim leading that train, his teammate Steph at the rear of it, and they've got Safso and Lucha in the middle. Lucha not getting the best exit out of turn 8. Down towards the chicane. Things have spaced out a little bit after Lucha's issue, but no position changes to report as of yet. We've also got Beavis. He's pretty tight on the rear of Crampy in the Haas.
Yeah, speaking of Renaults, it's Safso very tight to the rear of Tim, and Tim's gone into the pit lane now. It could be that he was struggling with some kind of damage. Meanwhile, Vettel under threat. That's Hello Khan, very tight to the rear of the Racing Point coming up the hill.
Beavis is also very tight behind Crampy. He's looking for a way past. Again, up this hill around the left-hander. Nothing to allow him through there around Casino. Is he going to have a look up the inside down into turn 5? Not today.
Well, it appears there's been an exchange between Baza and Alexander, and they're battling, and they're wheel to wheel right now, coming through the final turn of the circuit, moving down the straight right now. Although it is at the rear of this grid, we love to see the wheel to wheel action here, and he's going to have a run down on the inside into turn 1 right now, and it looks like they're going to come wheel to wheel up this hill.
Yeah, and wherever it is on the grid, racing around Monaco is always just so tight. Again, Beavis, he's constantly looking for a way past Grumpy, but not yet making any sort of moves. Those medium tyres should be faster than the hards, but obviously finding a way past on this tricky track is as Crampy a little bit sideways out of Raskas, and that's allowed the Renault straight past, and now he might be a little bit vulnerable from Jamie behind. Crampy doesn't have DRS, but that Alfa Romeo does, and he's got him as well down before turn 1. So Crampy losing a couple of positions after that mistake at a Raskas, and that's cost him time down into the stop finish straight.
Meanwhile, Jake very tight to the rear of Cotters right now in this fight for the final points position. Of course, 10th is on the table for the Racing Point, and they're coming down through that teardrop hairpin here as they make their way down through into the tunnel section. And of course, Cotters right now on the medium compound tires defending against Jake. Jake, 1 lap fresher rubber here, and we'll see what Cotters is able to do. You can see both of these racers not expending too much energy at the moment as they come through the chicane. And now Cotters is going to get overtaken by Jake here, coming out of the chicane, and it was a very cleanly done move. Just a great exit from the Racing Point. Nicely done.
Yeah, and the track is already starting to take end plates Lucha has just lost his front right end plate, so he's going to struggle now. He was gaining on the Renault of Sasso, but after that mistake, it might leave him a little bit vulnerable to Steph in the AlphaTauri behind. Both on the same compound tire, same age, but the difference being in between those cars now, there's less damage on the AlphaTauri, and you can just see the advantage that is giving him through the corners. He's catching that Mercedes absolutely rapidly, and now through the hairpin, you can just see the advantage that Steph has.
Yeah, one key thing, I was on board with Jamie there, and he went wheel to wheel with Beavis into turn 1. Beavis and him having a little bit of a scrap. The Alfa Romeo getting unsettled just a little bit. But, of course, Beavis maintaining that position for now. But, of course, we'll have to check back in with that momentarily. But right now, as you said, Steph looking to get with Lutra here and perhaps follow him through. Safso on those soft compound tires ahead of them. They should be able to make up some decent time here. And Jake is in on the mix here as well. Currently less than less than a second behind the rear of this AlphaTauri. Of course, the gaps are one thing. Getting around the car ahead is a completely different story, and somebody to talk about is Kana. He's currently in 5th position, hunting down the Ferrari of Hurricane. And, well, you can see they're coming up this hill here, and things are so tight that it's almost like you just need to stick with the car and wait for them to make a mistake instead of making any moves yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely a strategy here as Domi, he's going a little bit slowly. He's been caught very rapidly by Safso, who almost looked as if he was going to have a go down into turn 5. Now through this hairpin of turn 6, no position changes through here. You can do it, but it's exceptionally difficult. If we see one here, it will be an absolute treat if it's done right. But Safso is still in that 7th place. And Lucha, Domi's teammate, he's clinging to 8th place, but the Mercedes right now looking a little bit worse for wear. And you've got Jake, he is approaching this battle as well. He's looking at the rear of Steph, so 6th through 10th right now. Definitely not confirmed order.
So many battles happening on circuit right now, and Domi is going extremely slow here, and I don't know what the issue is in that car. He is going into the pit lane, so Safso now has been unleashed to go and catch up with Kana, and Kana hunting down Hurricane. Of course, 6.6 seconds is the gap. Safso still on softs, and he has an entire mob of drivers on mediums behind him that he needs to contend with now. And you can see Steph there, very tight to Lucha here, and not really giving him an opportunity to breathe for that P7 slot.
Yeah, a lot of drivers into the pits in that lap, and gonna grant a few people positions. Domi, he came out just behind Dirk Chocolate in the Red Bull. He's climbed his way to 12th place. Currently sitting on hard compound tires.
Of course, if you're just tuning in, you are watching the newly minted MRL EU division for round 2, the Monaco Grand Prix. My name is Strifium, joining me is Unicorn, and we do racing Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and most Saturdays. So feel free to hit that follow button if you're enjoying the broadcast, as it's something we do quite regularly. And we see a lot of intense racing. Of course, Monaco, a battle of strategy, given the inability to overtake here. And you can see a lot of pit stops coming down the pipe now. Khalil Khan has now entered lead of this race as Vettel has come into the pits, and you'll see he's going to drop down quite a significant amount of positions here. He is going to be exiting in 11th. And that is Dirk Chocolate not too far behind him now. Less than 2 seconds, the current gap.
Yeah, and battle for 5th as well. We have Lucha and Steph both missing an end plate, the opposite ends. But Jake in the Racing Point absolutely squeaky clean in terms of damage. So he is able to sort of sit behind these guys and just wait. He's poised for when one of them makes a mistake as a result of that damaged front wing. And like you said, Safso, he's been released and absolutely flying away from them right now. The gap, almost a second.
Another fight that we haven't had really that much of an opportunity to talk about is this fight for podium positions in, of course, Hurricane and Kana right now. And, of course, they are a lap down. Halil Khan has come in, and these two are continuing on. That means Hurricane is in the lead of this race in that Ferrari with Kana very tight to the rear of him. And of course, they will more than likely be pitting soon, but they have been at each other's heels for the entirety of this race thus far. And it's battles that you love to see, Unicorn, like this.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a nice battle forming for 7th as well. Jamie climbing from the rear of this grid after not only a 5-second grid penalty, but also that glitch that puts people who join the qualifying halfway through to the back of qualifying. And he is now fighting for 7th place. He's got Ruben, who was in one of the top spots of this race moments ago, now on fresh rubber. He's behind them, and he's going to want to get past them as quickly and as safely as possible. Obviously, for him, they're not back markers because they haven't pitted yet, so it is 4th position, and they are entitled to defend that Ferrari as much as they choose. And you can just see him not being able to make it past before the Nouvelle chicane.
Things very tight right now. We've had one safety car here already, but things...
Oh, and that's Halil Khan into the back of the racing point of Jake. It doesn't look like he's suffered too much damage, but there is end plate damage. He's missing a front right end plate. Again, apologies for the interruptions, but he was up at the front, and now that's going to hurt his chances here this evening.
Well, Steph has come in for some hard compound tires. Dirk Chocolate's now into the points, and he's on 11-lap-old hards. We'll see what he does with those come way down the line in this race. Of course, we're only 13 laps in here, and we have a total of 39 here in this campaign. Of course, now we have another flag. It looks like Sector 3. Nothing major going on there. But Jamie on the rear of Beavis right now, very tight, and they're both on 11-lap-old tires, except Beavis is on the mediums. Meanwhile,
Yeah, it's a nice
Hello Khan down with a dive on the inside of Jake. Jake being forced to slow things up and exit the chicane awkwardly here. And Halil is into 4th, and that may have just been a sign of aggression from Halil there, maybe marking his territory after the incident. And now there's another chunk of debris, and it looks like that might have come off of Hello Khan as well.
He's not having a good couple of laps trying to get through this traffic, but he wasn't behind before he pitted. We've also got a 4-way fight for 5th place, and it's Jamie up the inside of the Renault of Beavis into turn 1. And it looks like they both got through, but they're side by side coming up the hill. We've got Vettel as well. He's trying to look past the Ferrari, but it is Beavis. He's coming back past the Alfa Romeo here, but Jamie's got the inside corner, and Beavis has got to be careful of Ruben as well. He's squeezing up, and he might go for the overtake on a pair of them.
Oh,
and that's Ruben gaining
wow.
2 places. You love to see it, but Jamie and Beavis still side by side down into the hairpin. Jamie coming out on top, though, and Ruben, he's left Vettel for dust. He's still stuck behind these 2 battling cars. But Ruben, what an overtake. Or 2, should I say.
Wow, what a move by Ruben there, rubbing his hands together, keeping things clean. And yeah, he moved his way through, but of course, he didn't really have that many options there, and it was kind of do or die for him in the Ferrari, and he's made it into 5th position with an absolute highlight if I've ever seen it. Now, one thing to pull from that was, of course, Beavis ahead of Vettel right now, but Beavis has some front right end plate damage. And now it's Jake getting into 2nd position as Safso has moved into the pit lane, and it looks like he's going to get into lead of this race as well, because that is Hurricane who has come in. We'll have to see where they leave and exit this equation. But of course, Jake now into lead of this race, and that puts Ruben into P2 as he moves past the back marker. That was the Williams of, I believe, Adam.
Yeah, and this is where we're going to...
Oh, and Beavis has had a major issue because now Vettel is moved into 3rd position, and he is not having a good time in that Renault right now. He's missing a good portion of his front end. That front left end plate causing him a little bit of grief right now because Vettel was able to just skate past him there.
And Halil Khan, he's come out of the pits. He's in 16th place now after the issues he's had over the last couple of laps.
What a race it's been so far. Domi with Jamie A move on the inside, through into the chicane, switching back now, and now into 5th position. Very, very neat move from the Mercedes there. Not much Jamie can do about it either. Of course, Jamie missing that front right end plate. It's going to cost him some performance through turns, and now it's Alexander tight to the rear of Lutra. Lutra in that other Mercedes defending 11th position right now. It's the McLaren with a very good jolt of speed on the rear of him.
Bivitz in the pit lane.
Oh, what in Lutra? Lutra has cooked his tires coming out of the penultimate turn, and Alexander has moved into the pit lane as a result. And Lutra, no damage on that, but he has, of course, dropped, and there's a multitude of cars coming into the pits. And now there's been a retirement of, I believe, Kana, who has opted to retire the car in the pit lane, Hurricane. And what is this behind him? The back marker of Adam. It looks like a little nudge there from Hurricane into the rear of Dirk Chocolate, costing him a front left end plate. And now there is another yellow flag in Sector 3. And it looks like that is just the retired car of Kana. Yeah, so Dirk Chocolate having a very interesting race here. He is into 5th position on 14-lap-old hard compound tires. Should there be a safety car, he would be in a very, very unique running position.
Yeah, I was about to say, safety car would be a blessing for Dirk in that Red Bull. He's got a little bit of damage on the wing, but if you can manage it, you can see there the Ferrari behind him. He is coming in as we're talking about him. So I imagine it's going to be a new front wing and mediums. It's definitely mediums. He's serving a penalty. A lot of people serving penalties in the pit lanes today.
Safso right now hunting down the Alpha Tauri of Tim, Hello Khan. Fastest lap of the campaign thus far, 111.417. Jake right now leading this race, and it's Ruben quite tight to him. Coming out of the tunnel, is there going to be a move down the inside from the Ferrari, switching over ahead of the Racing Point, and that has allowed Vettel to catch up with his teammate and Jake. And we'll see what the Mexican, who was leading this race for quite some time, is going to be doing about the two drivers ahead. Of course, we'll see if team orders come to play here. But the South African of Ruben now into the lead of this race on the 6-lap-old mediums, and that is going to be Jake's cue to pit off of those medium compound tires, unleashing his teammate on the Ferrari ahead.
He picked up a 5-second penalty for speeding on entrance, though, so not ideal for him, but it looked like when Ruben was coming past, he didn't look like he was expecting it, and maybe he tried to turn in, realized there's a Ferrari on my inside, and he had to back out. However, for Jake, it looks like he's going to come out of the pit lane in a very decent position here. He's going to hold 5th by the looks of it, because the pit exit.
Oh, and he's spoiled the party for Tim and Safso, because he got out just ahead of them, and he's going to really break down this position for Tim now, because Safso has been hunting him down on these 3-lap-old medium compound tires, and now that Jake has inserted himself ahead, Tim's going to lose time to the Renault behind.
Yeah, and Safso, he's had such great pace this evening here at Monaco. And now behind Tim, Tim's going to get potentially, I was going to say held up, but Tim, his tyres aren't doing him any favours right now. 12-lap-old hards, good for a many more lap, but still not going to be anywhere near as fast as 3-lap-old mediums.
Jamie on the inside of Lutra coming out of the tunnel into the chicane now. Lutra forced to take the runoff road there. He's taken a penalty as a result, and that is a 3-second time penalty that is definitely going to cost him. Jamie on the 2-lap-old mediums, of course, in 11th, looking for that final points position, and he has had a tough go of it, considering he did get set to the rear of this grid. Meanwhile, Safso and Tim, the battle we've been watching unfold wheel to wheel through turn 1 now. There's a brush with the wall. That's Safso being squeezed off by the Alpha Tauri, and he's lost his front left end plate as a result. Of course, stewards can review that should there be a report between the two drivers later on, but it looks like Tim got out of that equation unscathed.
Around the outside of Casino, a very impressive move to get past Steph in the Alpha Tauri. Whilst that was going on, he is absolutely flying right now. Obviously, fresh out of the pits after a few incident-ridden laps for him. He's now looking at the back of his teammate, Crampy. And a yellow flag, that's a Williams. That's Baza in Sector 2. He's pointing the wrong way. He's reset to track in an attempt to get out of the way, it would appear.
Well, Safso right now still very tight to the rear of Tim, and we saw them come together a little bit through turn 1, but they're coming very close through into Sector 3 now as well. They're coming through this very fast right-left section of the circuit. Into the double right now through the final turn. You see Tim there getting a little bit slippy, and there he goes. He's tapped the wall, and a big skate out from beneath him. Safso very fortunate to get things slowed down, and it's Hilo Khan now in 7th position with, and we see it again in Safso and Tim. Looks like there's been a reversal of fortunes as Safso and Tim basically repeated the previous lap's endeavor, except reversed Safso this time, giving Tim the squeeze. Now we have a VSC deployed. Tim is into 7th position, Jamie in 8th, and now that has caused a chain of events that nobody wants to deal with. Very unfortunate there.
Lil Khan, he's not going to be happy about that. He was hard charging his way back up the grid, and he's just caught the back end of that incident, and he's going to have to come in for another new front wing. So he is going to be bitterly disappointed with how his evening is going at the moment, but
what's Formula One without a little bit of drama, right? Tim giving Safso a brief squeeze there. You see that front left end plate come off the Renault. Next time round, Safso on the rear. He gets through on that inside. He gives Tim the squeeze, giving him the, well, that's how, you know, you want to do that, I can do that too. But this time, unfortunately, Halil Khan, very, very rapid on the rear of those two, getting caused an issue there. And right now it's Beavis within half a second on the rear of the AlphaTauri. That's Steph. He has a look to the inside now. Steph holding his line there, a little shaky, and it looks like both AlphaTauris are coming into the pit lane now, and there's going to be a double stack, and that's going to cost Steph monumentally here in Monaco. Beavis into 7th position. Crampy is in the pit lane as well, and Beavis has Hurricane looking to catch up to him, currently 3.6 the gap. What a very unique race. Of course, we are on lap 21 out of 39 at the moment here around Monaco for MRL EU.
Yeah, everything's sort of spacing out now after everything. These pit stop might change things dependent on where people come out. And right now, the tightest gap might be the one for the lead. We got Vettel. He's just outside of that half a second window that you want to see people being able to go for moves in these tight corners around the streets of this very prestigious racetrack.
I must say, if anybody has dear good old Weza on speed dial, I would hit him up and tell him there's a South African in a Ferrari leading the Monaco Grand Prix right now, very much like, of course, Ferrari World Champion Jody Scheckter. That's Ruben leading this race right now. Vettel behind him in second, and that safety car has come out now, and where has it come out? Halil Khan has retired from this race, and it appears that has sparked the safety car. Very, very interesting.
Not happy with how this is going at all with the incidents he's been involved with, his fault or not. But he is now out of this race after doing fairly well in qualifying.
The thing with Monaco is you can be the fastest driver, but at the end of the day, Monaco is a circuit that requires an immense amount of patience, and if you don't have patience, well, you're not going to be winning a lot of races in this league. And it just appears that there's been a lot of drivers a little bit quick to the throttle on the rear of some of these cars, and of course stewards are going to have their hands full, but of course the drivers themselves, they want to continue racing in the MRL. They need to learn how to keep things as clean as humanly possible and make sure that the amount of space given is ideal for both parties, and this way conflicts are avoided. Of course, Monaco is an ultimate test. The MRL EU grid in their second round only. Of course, all of these drivers yet to really learn the strengths and weaknesses of the rest of the grid around them. And we understand that.
Yeah,
But this race is,
deep end.
yeah, it is the deep end for sure. And you know what? It's going to get maybe a little bit shallower, but they're not out of the thick of it yet, because next week, of course, Baku is going to have its own set of challenges, Unicorn.
Yeah, that Azerbaijan Grand Prix, obviously, a lot more overtaking capabilities compared to the Monaco track, but at the same time, you've got the tricky sections and the likes of castles and a lot of barriers. A lot of barriers still present at that track, so when we do head over to Azerbaijan for that race, I'm sure we'll see a fair few scrapes with the wall. Maybe not quite as many as we have today. You would hope not. Anyway, obviously Monaco being notorious for this style of race. And to be honest, we're 24 out of 39 laps completed. So, well, 23 laps completed. And only 3 retirements out of 20 drivers. You gotta say, it's a pretty impressive display from a grid of drivers who have been racing each other for 2 weeks now, if that.
Yeah, Monaco. It's a tough nut to crack, Unicorn. Safety car now going to bring this entire grid close together once again. It is the second safety car deployed here in this race. And I have to say, 2 safety cars for a grid of 20 drivers, which is also a rarity in league racing as far as I'm concerned, considering, you know, as we said at the beginning, not for the faint of heart. And, well, things have proven to be quite exciting around this race thus far.
Yeah, and you have to come into a race around Monaco with the expectation that something might not go your way over the course of the 39 laps around a tricky circuit. Whether it's your fault or not, you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to keep your head up high, come into the pit lane, get a new wing, whatever it may be. And these drivers now, with about 15 laps to go, are going to have a safety car restart either this lap or the next. And we would hope, and everything will get back underway with much tighter gaps between all of the cars as the grid reforms.
Let's see right now the exchange of positions throughout this grid. Ruben and Vettel exchanged from the front row right now. In to lead of this race is the Ferrari, and you can see it's a Racing Point 2-3. And, well, that is Vettel driving Sergio Perez's car, and he is, of course, from Mexico, so I imagine he would love to win around here. That would be a unique feeling. Of course, the name throws everybody off, considering Vettel. This race has been very dynamic. You can see the variety of stoppages we've had for these racers. Alexander there in the McLaren, Cotters, Baza, Adam as far as 4 stops in this race. And a couple of drivers, that's Ruben and Vettel, as low as 1 stop here in this one. Tire difference across the board is major. The only 2 drivers on really the same tires at the moment are, well, Ruben and Vettel at the front of this grid, and then there's a couple trickling down through the grid, but neck and neck, it's really a battle between Ruben and Vettel right now.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that not only of Ruben and Vettel got that track position, they've only had 1 stop, like you were saying. They've also got a couple of back markers in between them and Vettel's teammate of Jake. You can see the McLaren of, I believe, Alexander there behind, as well as Codders in the notes.
And you can see safety car has been called in here, and it was much earlier than the last time we saw, because Ruben slowing things up now, and he's going to want to get an absolute rocket launch here, which is something that is somewhat difficult to do here around Monaco. He's waited for that safety car to come in now, and he is going to have control of this grid. And you can see, just as the other safety car had, we have a variety of penalties coming across for severe collisions. Drivers just need to keep their distance, and you see now Vettel and Jake 2-3 right now. Vettel within half a second of the lead car. Tafso currently in 7th position. He's still hunting down positions on this grid, and it's currently Hurricane ahead of him.
Oh, and that's an issue, or is that just a... It's a McLaren. It's Alexander grinding to a halt at the side of the track out of Casino. He's dropped to 15th place. Too many positions lost, but he was just having to let everyone pass on the blue flags, it would seem.
Well, things very, very intense here between the front runners right now. A second is realistically the gap ongoing, or 8/10 if you will. Vettel seems to be dropping a little bit of time on the rear of that Ferrari. Of course, we'll have to take a look at the penalty situation up there, as Monaco has its own set of challenges. Domi currently less than half a second on the rear of Jake in this fight for a podium position, and Jake has the back marker of Steph ahead of him, and he has to let these guys through.
Yeah, and speaking of the penalty situation, the race director is just a sea of warnings, 3 seconds, and a lot of 5-second penalties as well. Like you were saying, those safety car restarts, very, very easy for these guys to run into the back of one another, especially if people aren't paying their full attention.
Domi, speaking of paying full attention, and Jake are having a serious battle right now, and there's blue flags up on the circuit right now, and I'm curious to see as to why. Right now Beavis is catching them as well.
It looks like we had a couple more retirements in the pit lane as well. That's Alexander and Baza out of this race.
Well, very unfortunate indeed. Of course, it is Monaco, and you have a certain expectation. Domi right now definitely has expectations for a podium right now. Of course, a little shaky there. DRS now enabled. Jake looking to defend that third position.
Yeah, and that third position right now is absolute gold dust, because look how far ahead Striff, Ruben and Vettel are compared to the rest of this grid. They are absolutely flying.
Oh, it's a move from Domi on the inside of the racing point. Wow, very tight there between these two racers, and Beavis isn't too far behind, and on his rear it's Hurricane coming through that hairpin.
Yeah, still no defense really. You can see Domi tearing away Jake on these hard tires. Maybe it's what's costing him, but you've got the Ferrari of Hurricane. He's looking very close to the rear of the Renault of Beavis as well. So come the end of this race, this upper tier of the top 10, third through about 6, could be drastically changed. And you got Beavis' teammate as well, Safso. He's looking to join this party as well. So
yeah, he's no slouch, Safso there. He's in P7 right now. He's one of the quickest racers we've seen on circuit today, and he's on these hard compound tires. He's got more life than these 3 drivers ahead in these tires, so he's going to be looking to hunt down some serious points right now. And we saw him have a fantastic drive last week in Spain as well from a further back position. He really likes to hunt down and get some overtaking done. Of course, Monaco, a circuit where that's a little bit more difficult to do, presents a unique challenge as we've talked about, but right now he's looking good right now to move through and potentially take a 4th position, as that is on the cards right now. Jake defending against his teammate Beavis for that position.
yeah, and with just 10 laps to go now, what you've got to hope that drivers know is that this is still Monaco. The track hasn't changed to what they were racing around the last 29 laps, so if anyone goes for more ambitious overtakes, it's not going to end too well for them. As Luke now, he's looking at Tim. He's passed the Alpha Tauri pretty easily, it would seem, down into turn 12. But look at this huge train that is currently being led by Jake. Hurricane on the rear of the Renault of Beavix, though. He's looking out to squeeze past through Santavot, but this race still holding this tight battles.
He had that DRS, just not able to get a good line in to make a move through on that Renault right now, but Beavis is absolutely being hunted now. A move on the inside, a bit of a lock up there from the Renault. They're wheel to wheel right now, and he's trying to push and squeeze his way through is Hurricane. As they come down into the hairpin right now, we'll jump on with the Renault. And it doesn't look like the Ferrari took any damage there, which is, of course, very fortunate. When you're trying to battle very tight like that, it can be very easy to lose that end plate. But that fighting with Hurricane has allowed Jake to escape a little bit further ahead from these two.
Yeah, Hurricane, though, he looked like he knew exactly where he's positioning that car. That move could have been a little bit more fruitful, but he had to back out to avoid not only his damage, but also spinning that Renault and just completely blocking the road for not only him, but everyone else behind him. So he's done very well to avoid any damage there, but it looks like he's in full control and knows exactly what he's doing. Down into turn 1 again, not any moves as he goes up the hill, still tailing this Renault as tight as you can get around Monaco here. Through Casino down towards turn 5. Is he going to be able to make a similar attempt to what he did last time? No, he's not. And right now, Beavis is safe for another lap, for at least for here.
Now, one driver who I want to say has not had the best of luck today is Dirk Chocolate. He was in a great running position. He's currently in 12th. He's on these fresh, soft compound tires, or at least fresher than the rest of the tires we're seeing on this grid right now. He has a significant gap to the driver ahead of him. We'll see if there's any last-minute safety car deployments that can't perhaps get him into a better striking position. But of course, we saw him start outside of the points last week. We'll see if he can pull off some miracles again today. Beavis right now still so tight with that Ferrari of Hurricane breathing down his neck right now. And this is where we've seen the run kind of come the entire race. Beavis now on this fight into turn 1. Hurricane with a bit of a slip on the exit, and they have very similar life tires. DRS, not a lot of overtake being utilized this time around for Hurricane. No brushing the wall there on the exit. So still nearly 3/10 is the gap. And oh, there's a brush with the wall. We'll see if he took any end plate damage there. Didn't appear to be, and he didn't. So very lucky for him.
Yeah, these is about 4 cars here, and you've got Jamie as well, standing at the back of this grid. He's on softs. He might struggle with them towards the tail end of this race, but right now they might be just a tiny bit faster than the 9-lap-old hards on the Renault ahead of him. But these 4, and everyone keep your eyes peeled on what's going on here, because I think we're going to see one hell of a move at least from one of these 4 cars.
Well, Safso's just taking a 3-second time penalty. He's pushing. He's not going to be happy about that. Of course, a majority of these racers, I imagine, having penalties, or at the very least a package of warnings. I don't know what the stewards have handed out. We've had so many warnings come down through race control. I haven't been able to keep track, as Cotters is just taking a 3-second time penalty basically on cue, and it's Hurricane coming up the hill, as we've seen time and time again, looking to get something from Beavis. And it's now Safso still on the rear of these two, just watching this battle unfold, and he's, you know, just waiting for an opportunity to move through into a potential 5th position here.
Looks like most people are pretty similar in terms of penalties. Everyone seems to have a couple, but again, the race director not telling as to who has served, whether they're 5 seconds, 3 seconds, or whatnot. But the 2 up the front, Ruben and Vettel, it does look as if they are both clear of any penalties. So, although no, sorry, Vettel has a penalty, Ruben does not. So that could seal the deal out at the front if Vettel hasn't served that.
Such a train here, such a train in this midfield battle, and it's being led right now by Beavis, and you can see Hurricane using the overtake and the DRS now with the move down the inside into turn 1, and there's a bit of contact there, and it's possible that Beavis has taken damage. I do believe he did, and now it's Hurricane pulling off to the inside line, and he has now allowed Safso to get ahead of him, and Safso's now been let through on team orders, it would appear. into 5th position. Now Beavis holding up Jamie there, and this is just a serious exchange of position through on lap 34.
Yeah, and Crampy and Lucha now as well on the back, and this is exactly what I was saying just a few laps ago. This is not a different track. They're still here. Turn 1 hasn't changed, and Hurricane, he just found that out the hard way. There's no way that was ever going to work out for him. He was just too far back, and he's just lost his in play as a result of that.
You can see coming out of the tunnel down into the chicane how realistically long this train actually is, and right now Beavis still has Jamie on the rear of him, and Beavis has that front end damage right now, and it's going to cost him, and he's going to have to hold up Jamie as long as he can in order to allow his teammate Zafso to get ahead.
Yeah, again, DRS down towards turn 1. Is anyone going to try and more successfully overtake down into Saint Devot? It's not going to happen. It doesn't look like for the time being. And you can see Beavis is doing exactly what his team is asking for him. He's being an excellent tail gunner for Safso, who's now 1.5 seconds clear of 6th place. And subsequently, the train that follows that sister Renault. But it would appear Jamie right now looking on the inside into the hairpin. He's received a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting, and no surprise, all of the curb was being utilised by the Alfa Romeo. And even still, he's not been able to make it past the Renault. No damage on either car. It doesn't appear, but still, a little bit problematic. Domi up at the front, though. He has caught Vettel with 4 laps to go in this race. That Mercedes, he's going to look for a way past a very, very slow-looking Racing Point, who's dove into the pits. 24 laps on this medium is proving too difficult for Vettel, it would seem.
Wow.
Is Ruben going to have to get to the same problem?
Wow, 25 laps for Ruben on these mediums at this point. He still has a few laps yet to go and complete here. But Vettel has been struggling, and we'll see what kind of time Domi is able to catch up on Ruben with just a few laps remaining. Of course, penalties can play a role here. We'll have to see what that situation's like between Domi and Ruben now, as Luktra very tight to the rear of Crampy in this fight for P7, and that's Hurricane not too far ahead for the Mercedes, and it could be a good finish there. That's Crampy looking to defend. They have a bit of a switch off. Luktra moves to the inside. Crampy holding things around. Luktra gonna have to try and make the move another time, perhaps coming out of the tunnel here, because he's got a lot of speed right now in comparison to that Haas, it would seem.
Yeah, only a few laps left now, and this is, you know, it's so difficult to overtake, but it's been difficult to overtake from the start, and everyone now, the safety car restart, it's pushed these group of drivers together, and everyone gets tempted. You can see that car ahead of you, and on a normal track, these overtakes, it might be a little bit easier, if not a lot easier, compared to what you've got here around Monaco, but this is Monaco. It's a completely different beast. And now Hurricane, sorry, again, DRS, he's too far back there on Beavis for the time being. Hopefully he's learned his lesson. He's so close to that Renault though, and he really, really wants that P5.
Yeah, he most definitely does, and as do Crampy and Luktra. And Luktra right now, this is where we saw him and Crampy do a little bit of a battle before. Luktra has a lot of speed through here in comparison to that Haas. We saw the move last time up the inside. He went to look again, but Crampy just had that Haas planted there in the center of the circuit, just saying, no, I really don't want to fight you right here. I don't want you to try and move that car on the inside. And now he's holding P7, but Luktra, I imagine, going to be getting frustrated at some point here.
Yeah, he's got Tim just behind him. And this is going to be nerve-wracking for these drivers. You're in a train, it's Monaco, and it's the last few laps. Even if you're not considering going for one of these ambitious dives, you've got to think in the back of your mind, what if the driver behind me, you know, down into Sandavot, down into the Nivelle chicane, what if they attempt something that I definitely do not want them to do? And it could be fatal for not only one driver but two, as it's just so critical to get things absolutely right. Overtakes have to be clean and clinical, and Hurricane behind Beavis, we've already seen him haphazardly attempt it once through turn 1. Whether we'll see him do it in one of the closing laps.
We're seeing Luktra go for something on Crampy there, and You can see Lutra not sure if Crampy was going to give him the opportunity to make that move, so he dropped down the brakes, and Crampy did as well, and they both kind of equalized their speed there. Crampy with a little bit of a lunge ahead there, and he's still maintaining that 7th position.
Oh, and Vettel's had an issue down into the hairpin. He hasn't even made it. He's just spun out. Yeah, I think he had a issue coming down the hill at a casino, but
oh, and meanwhile Safso on Jake into 3rd position now, coming out of the tunnel, and he is very clearly ahead of that racing point coming out of this chicane. And now it's Jake on these 20-lap-old hards who's going to be struggling now. There's a couple of racers behind him that are catching up down the times right now. Beavis on these mediums is absolutely tearing down that gap.
And Vettel, he has retired from this race. It looks like, I don't know if he crashed or just pulled over and retired, but it hasn't cost a safety car, no, as Domi is catching Ruben quite rapidly for the lead, but I think it'll be hard pressed for him to close and overtake 1.2 seconds in the remaining few corners that they have in the 2nd and 3rd sector here around Monaco.
Oh, there's another exchange. That's Jake, and he's lost a position out to Beavis now. And that looks like it's going to be a Renault 3-4 as he continues to drop through this grid. Hurricane, he's been hunting P5 all day versus Beavis. Maybe he'll get it from Jake instead. And now, of course, it's going to be a fight to the finish for pretty well this entire grid, and penalties are going to play a massive role. Right now, Ruben, with the Mercedes of Domi, hot on his gearbox right now, coming through the final 2 turns. How are things going to go for the South African here for penalties? He's on these medium softs. He's on these medium tires, of course. 29 laps he's gone on them.
Oh, and there's been a huge issue through the chicane. I don't quite know what's happened. Lutra's facing the wrong way. He's been hit by Steph. Jake has had an issue for the chicane. Goodness me, I'm not quite sure what's happened, and I'm sure people have picked up penalties as a result of whatever's happened there.
Well, as I was saying, Ruben with the race win. Domi in P2, and that's Safso taking home the final spot on the podium with a P3 victory. Very nicely done from those 3 drivers, and it was a very unique and exciting race to say the least. Of course, Ruben, Domi, Safso your top 3, with Beavis in 4th, a 3-4 for the Renault squad. That's Tim in 5th, and Hurricane after a very long race not able to capture that 5th slot. Crampy in 7th with Lutra in 8th, Jake in 9th, and Jamie after a very long race coming from the back of this grid late to qualification, having a couple of mishaps, you know, he comes home in P10 with the final points here. What a race it's been. Of course, this was only round 2 of the MRL EU grid. We do this every Tuesday, 2 p.m. CDT, that's 8 p.m. BST. And of course, we're going to be doing a ton more racing action this week here around the Principality of Monaco. We, of course, have this Thursday Tier 2 and Tier 1 racing action. That's at 9:15 p.m. BST and 11:15 p.m. BST, respectively. And then we have another European grid taking to Monaco on Friday for Club Division. And that kicks off at 2 p.m. CDT, 8 p.m. BST as well. So, what a race it was, of course. Ruben, the South African driver in the Ferrari with a win here around Monaco. The Hungarian Domi starting in 7th with a great climb into 2nd position, with Safso from the UK, of course, in the Renault from 11th position, taking home 3rd. Beavis in 4th, Tim in 5th, that's Hurricane in 6th, Crampy in 7th with Lutra in 8th, Jake in 9th, and Jamie rounding out your top 10 racers here. Dirk Chocolate ever so close. He started in 17th, and what a race it was for him. Quite the dynamic one for the Red Bull. He comes home very close to the points in 11th position from 17th. Nicely done. Of course, Steph there, 13th to 12th. He moves up 1 slot. Cotter's there, 19th to 13th, with Vettel having a very unique race there, leading for most of it in 14th position. At the end of this one, he started the race on pole. Baza rounding out your 15 drivers here, but you can see Baza all the way down through to Yukio, all retiring out of this one. And what a long race it was. You can see the tires that were utilized throughout this race by all of these racers. Ruben there on the one stop, nicely done to him. Monaco, such a challenging circuit, and he got it from P2, so congratulations are in order. Unicorn,
Yeah,
any comments?
absolutely crazy. Even if Domi had caught Ruben there, he wouldn't have been able to win the race. Ruben squeaky clean, Domi with a 3-second penalty. But I hope someone had an on board of that incident down into the chicane, because I missed it. I think you missed it as well, because we were so focused on that battle up at the front. But again, it's Monaco. What do you expect around such a tight, difficult track?
Yeah,
Absolutely incredible. And for the second race as well, these guys, you know, they don't know each other's limits, what to expect from drivers around them. And now with a little bit more experience of each other's driving under their belts, hopefully in the coming weeks we can see a little bit more from them in terms of close wheel-to-wheel action that doesn't result in what we saw at the hairpin in the chicane. But that's Monaco for you, not necessarily reflecting on the grid itself. And obviously we've got more action from Monaco in the coming weeks with grids that do know each other.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, now what we're going to do is we're going to head on over and rate a member of the community. If you guys have any recommendations that are currently streaming Formula 1 2020, feel free to let us know in the chat, of course. Now, one thing I do want to share with you, if you're looking to race in the Misfits Racing League, we're always looking for new members. Feel free to join us on Discord. Type !apply in a channel once you've read the rules, and you could be, of course, slotted into a grid here, whether it be EU, Tier 2, Tier 1, or of course Club, and coming soon, the Oceanic Division. Of course, YouTube highlights, all of those things can be found on YouTube. Things are there. Now, what we're going to do is close this stream out. Of course, my name is Strifium. Joining me, as always, was Unicorn, and this Thursday, we are back at 9:15 p.m. BST for Tier 2 racing action around Monaco for round 7. If I'm not mistaken, of that season. So it's going to be quite the race, and Tier 1 action happening Thursday as well. So we hope to see you then.